Díos Maríomh agus fáilcí go Páirc an Crócaigh for a webinar on the GAA Star Centre. I'm delighted to be joined by a couple of principals who've had experience of the initiative being rolled out. But first, I want to speak a little bit about my own experience of how I came to the GAA Star Centre. I was in Zambia a couple of years ago, and I noticed with the kids that there was a freedom and a fearlessness in their engagement with. We gave them a hurl, we gave them a football, they were doing acrobatics with it, they were changing almost the meaning of how to use a hurl. And I thought to myself, how do we bring this home, or how do we open this up for kids in our own country where maybe a little bit of stagnancy had come into our movement, a little bit of rigidity. And when I came home, I found the GAA Star Centre. I saw the work that Pat Daly was doing. I saw what it was rooted in and the way it was being rolled out. I'm joined by Pat Culhan, who will give us a good explainer on what that is. But first, I would love to get each of you maybe to bring yourselves into the room, each of the teachers to bring themselves into the room and introduce yourselves and maybe your school.
Perfect. Hi Diarmuid, it's great to be here. I just want to say that I'm coming from Tinryland International School in Carlow. Orla Hennessy is my name and I'm the principal there. We're smallish, I suppose, just under 200 students in our school, junior infants to 6th class, and we've recently opened 2 special classes. That's for students on the autistic spectrum. So we were delighted to become involved with this initiative.
Okay, good. I look forward to exploring that one with the special school in particular as well. Martin?
My name is Martin Fogarty from Castlecomer in Kilkenny. I'm National Hurling Development Manager at the moment, having been a primary school teacher for 38 years, and 35 of those in the same school, which I started out as a one-teacher school, and it grew up to 4 teachers. So
what school is that?
It's a little place in North Castlecomer on the Laois border. It's called Feroda.
Feroda.
So not many would have heard of it because it's not even a village.
Yeah, okay. Feroda, what does that mean?
Feroda, well, if you want to put it into Irish, it's Fear Nuach, which is on the edge of the barony of Iduach.
Okay, Iduach. Okay.
Trying to catch me out on that one.
Yeah. You're a big niece more for Shane. We'll come to that one again as well. Carmel?
I'm Carmel Power. I'm from Killinure National School in County Limerick. I'm there for not quite as long as you, Martin, and I hope when I am, I'll be looking as well as you do. I'm there for since 1988, and I've been principal for over 20 years there. Our school is somewhat similar in size to Orla's. We've just over the 200 pupils. We also have 2 special classes. And I suppose sport is kind of in our DNA. So we love our GAA, I have to say, in our place.
Yeah, it's a thing in Limerick, isn't it? Well, sport is huge in Limerick.
It is.
It is. In rugby, it's a massive thing.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. And yourself, Pat?
Yeah, Pat Culhan, National Games Development Officer, have the privilege of managing this 5-Star Centre project on a national basis. Have been in Croke Park here, leading child level projects for the last 7 years, and for previous 7 years to that I worked as a Games Development Officer in Limerick, and actually would have worked closely with Carmel at the time as well.
Okay. I think I'm interested in what it is and getting that message across very clearly, so we can kind of move on to maybe more about your own experiences of the 5-Star Centre, because really that's what we want. It's like, what are the experiences, what are the challenges, what does it look like, what are the successes? So that's definitely the main thing. Well, maybe Pat, do you want to give us an idea as to what it is?
Well, we've put together a little whiteboard animation. It's only 2 or 3 minutes long, Diarmuid, and it really takes teachers through exactly what you need to do to become a GAA 5-Star Centre. So let's play that and come back to the chat then.
Okay, thanks Pat.
Primary teachers, could your school be a GAA 5-Star Centre? Research clearly demonstrates the benefits of physical activity in a child's broader development. The GAA's 5-Star Centre initiative supports and recognises primary schools that provide all pupils with 1 hour of physical activity per week. The 5-Star Centre initiatives includes a choice of innovative, age-appropriate games including Have a Ball, Fun and Run, Catch and Kick, Strike It, Skills Challenges and Go Games, which the school can run in their own time. Delivered by teachers and supported by the GAA's full-time development officers, all of these activities are games-based, player-centred and learner-led. The activities in turn have been created to ensure children will experience and enjoy fun, friendship, fairness and improved fitness, contributing to their health and well-being. To get your school involved, a teacher or principal must submit an expression of interest on learning.gaa.ie/5-star by September 30th. After this, a member of the county's GAA development staff will then arrange a face-to-face chat. The school will then be invited to formally register as an official GAA 5-star centre by October 31st. This includes a table of activities to plan what the school will do throughout the year. Each class must then complete at least 1 hour of any of the activities each week for 6 weeks, with an additional 26 hours of activity being completed by one or more classes or groups across the school year. Once registered, training will be provided to teachers on how to run the various activities. After all the activities have been completed, the school must submit an end-of-year report by May 31st. This should include a total of all activity hours completed by each class or group across the year. Once the end-of-year report is submitted and meets the required number of activity hours, the school will be designated an official GAA 5-star centre, which includes listing the school as an accredited official GAA 5-star centre, being awarded a prestigious GAA 5-star flag and certificate of participation, and other prizes and benefits. So if you'd like your school to become a GAA 5-star centre, get the ball rolling today at learning.gaa.ie/5-star.
So, Orla, Tinryland's experience of the 5-star centre, I mean, we've a good idea now of what what it is. What has it been like rolling it out? What's the experience been like for you?
All in all, it's been very positive. We were approached, I suppose, by Carlow GAA staff to pilot it. We were one of the piloting schools in 2016, I think it was. And I suppose as principal, and I know for the staff, we kind of come to staff meetings and we have a long agenda and there's lots of initiatives and there's sort of this initiative overload at times. And I had a look at it and, I did a little bit of research and I thought that would be something I personally would be really interested in. Carmel talked about Sport Crazy School and we're similar to that in Tinryland. The locals like to call it the home football Tinryland and so there's a lot to live up to. And I suppose, we have an all-female teaching staff and we have all different levels of ability in sports. We have some that are very involved in sports and some that are not so. And I was just interested to find out how it would work and how the teachers would deliver the programme, what support was in place and all that. So Carlow GAA were fantastic. They came out to the school, they gave sort of a 15-minute presentation and then an hour and a half practical workshop. And from the very beginning, it was obvious that it was a very inclusive programme. As I said, the teachers were all of differing abilities and, but there was a huge fun factor and, it was very, during that hour and a half workshop for teachers, we had great crack at it and we had a laugh and,
How central is that to it? Like the
it
fact
was
that
huge,
there's a bit of lightness and enjoyment?
Yeah, it was huge actually, because I'd say there was a little bit of anxiety, even from all of us kind of saying, like I love sports, I love to watch it, but will I be able to deliver this in my classroom? And, will I have the resources there? And I suppose the facilitators were brilliant in that they gave us all that. And I mean, there's a brilliant little handbook and it's very user friendly, it's very practical, it's not going to take all day to get through, it's not, heavy on, it's just very, very easy to administer it, and that's huge. You can't have something where teachers are going to have to spend 10-15 minutes setting something up, a drill that's going to take 2 minutes. That's just not going to work in a primary school, particularly when you have 30 infants running around. So that was huge, and from the very beginning there was a big buy-in from all of the staff, and that was brilliant for us.
Okay, for you, Carmel, that buy-in, how was that buy-in, and what was the effect of it?
I think our buy-in started back years ago. Like Pat would have been a GDA, would have come out to our school, and we would have seen the concerns that are reflected nationally about children's fitness levels, children's physical fitness, children's ability. Lots and lots of those statistics that are being thrown at you all the time. But I've got a huge interest in fundamental movement skills, and Pat and I would have discussed this going back over many a year. So when Pat came to me to pilot the have a ball aspect of 5-star, I jumped because I firmly believe if you have the fundamental movement skills, you can do anything. You can play any game. But too often our kids are being set up for, sport-specific difficult skills, like ask a child to solo. I mean, that's so difficult. There's so many activities going on. If you have the fundamentals right and you get the basics up and running. So Pat had me at that. And if he had me, he had the staff, because all we wanted was best for the kids. And we sold it that this benefits the kids. They could all see it. So the pilot program for us was unbelievable. And like there's spirit and there's science. When you put the two together, it's kind of an interesting one, and there's for and against, but there's both here. Like we had the DCU lads down in our school, so they tested the kids before we ran the program. 6 weeks later they tested them again. There was a 7% improvement in fundamental movement skills in 6 weeks. That's a huge sell. So that sold it to the staff. The buy-in is there from the kids. You get the buy-in from teachers. We have some of the best teachers in the world in Ireland. We really, really have. You know, just give it to them, give them a shot, and let them off. They won't let you down.
For you, Martin, was there a bit of a break in terms of the GAA as to how we look at like that creating a game was kind of the first thing that we knew to do, and there's a kind of a positive thing in that too, just the jumpers down and playing a game, there's a great side of that, but the ability to kind of break down the fundamentals, was there a kind of a break in GAA attitudes in that separates this initiative from what's gone before?
Well, I suppose, Dermot, I probably looked at it slightly different. When I came into teaching a long time ago, very, very quickly I realised that a teacher can operate in two different ways. One can be clock in the morning, do what's on the curriculum, go home in the evening and draw your wage. Or you can make a difference. And I was fortunate enough to, I suppose, have worked with some teachers that actually did make a huge difference to children. And so early on in my career, I would have figured out that, you know, teachers are privileged in that they can make a huge difference to children if they decide to do so. And I would have always believed then that, you know, as teachers, we should endeavour to give every child something. You know, that when they go home or when they leave school, that they have something. Now that can be giving them an opportunity maybe to go on stage, giving them a chance maybe to play a musical instrument, and giving them an interest maybe in local history or something like that. But I mean, the obvious one coming from where I came from was going to be sport, because I'd be from a place that's steeped in hurling and football, particularly in hurling. And you know, I know for certain that if we engage the children and if we give them a little bit of something, if we push the boat out, the benefits are huge. The children react better, they work better, they do better, and the teacher actually has a better career. The teacher gets a lot of, I suppose, good feedback, get a lot of self-satisfaction in the job. And you know, with me in the early years, and then as the school built up, to do a bit of hurling and football and a little touch of handball in particular in the early days, I just brought the whole school together. And I suppose the way I look at it, and it hasn't changed much, it was all about getting out in the field or out in the yard and putting down a couple of jumpers and playing little matches. And that's your go games. Now whether the match is 1 versus 1 or 5 versus 5, it doesn't really matter. Depends on the age of the children. And I suppose we had in our school a small break, first break 11 o'clock. You know, you only had whatever 20 minutes. That was kind of the skill break. That's where you were poking against the wall or kicking a ball around. And the big break then, the lunchtime, you know, you'd have an hour or an hour and a quarter. That was your little match time, where the children, maybe themselves or even the teachers, just set up little goals throughout the pitch and play away. And that hasn't really changed. You know, years have gone on and we spoke about skills and drills and we spoke about different types of play and all that, and now it's come back to game-based approach. But it was always a games-based approach. And I think the 5 Star is given that opportunity to teachers to actually implement that in a nice little tidy package. I mean, teachers love packages. I remember when we got pictures of maybe the mammals of Ireland or maybe the birds of Ireland, and you got photographs and you got little slides and little video clips, and it was mighty. And that's what teachers
World
look
Cup,
for.
the World Cup, whatever it was, like World Cup 90 or whatever it was, you had this little package that you had, and you were able to engage with it then.
Yeah, because we're into planning.
I suppose like one of the things with that games-based approach, and okay, it happened in a very natural way, is that sometimes, or if not all of the time, what I found was, and this suited me because, I mean, I started off, I just was so interested in hurling, but that came often at the cost of people who their skill sets didn't really get to develop as much because I was the dominant one, or there was 2 or 3 more were the dominant ones. And so I suppose I'm wondering what, in terms of the inclusivity of it, Orla, for you in Tinryland, what's that like?
Absolutely, and I suppose it's obvious here the sort of the sports background of people and that's fantastic. But from our point in Tinryland, as I said, there were 2 or 3 of us that had not me included, that had this sporting prowess. And the fact that it was so, as you said, teachers love, ease of delivery, and a tidy little document that you have a package there, that if you're not someone who can just set up a drill, because everyone has different talents, all teachers have different ways of, we touched on it there, the musical instruments, whatever it is, the music, the drama, the sports. But if you're one of those people that actually, are a little bit nervous about PE, or a little bit nervous about teaching GAA skills because you mightn't be the strongest GAA player yourself, it's all here for you. But to go back to your question about the inclusion, I mentioned at the beginning that we have just opened up special classes 2 years ago now, and we'd have 12 children on the autistic spectrum. Now, like every other school in Ireland, we have children with all varying needs, children with different additional needs, children with Down syndrome, children with hearing impairment, and that was what was so fantastic about this programme. It's differentiated, it's tailored, it's all of the classes got to come out and enjoy it. One of their, still some of the children would have been in junior infants at the time, and they're now up in first, would still talk about when we were piloting the fun and run, and we decided that the best way to teach it was a lovely day outside, so we took the whole school outside, and we have a lovely area out to the back, picturesque really, and you can see all the kind of hills of Collection in the background, and they all sat out while the teachers, a fielding team and then the other team, and we were sort of and we said we play against each other. The teachers, yeah, we had a game against each other, and it became very competitive. Now the children were
you get to see a different side of some of the teachers.
But the children thought, and they shouted first, and they had, and still they would come back and say, "Do you remember that day, Mrs. Hennessy? I think I saw Miss Keane cheating, and she put the thing over, and she wasn't supposed to do it." And there's always this laugh around it, and it just, it was just again that fun element that they, that they really enjoyed.
Yeah, and you just touched on a very important point there. There's a big debate out there in the sports world at the moment. Should it be all about participation, or should it be all about performance? And performance is like competition, and you've just given a brilliant example of where they can live alongside each other very healthily, where you're competing in a very healthy, spiritual kind of a way, that's internal to you, your school, your community. It's based on intrinsic motivation. You're having a bit of crack. It's nice to win, but it's not win at all costs. It's kind of fun at all costs. And if you win, you win, and if you lose, you lose.
I suppose the win at all cost thing comes from, just from the outside, it seems to come from maybe over competitive parents, teachers, or whatever, like that the competition is not, it's not that it's not inherent to us or that it's not natural to us, that there's nothing actually wrong with wanting to win a game. Absolutely. As long as it's coming from the kids themselves, and that they just want to get the next goal or whatever it is, like, and it's not in pursuit of, hating the village down the road and thinking that you have to get the one over them. It's like, no, I just have a natural bit of competitiveness. This is a space created for me in which I can let that go, and it's like when those spaces are created, then your most natural instinctive talents come to the surface, and this is what we want
absolutely.
For the kids.
And I think we have to be very cognizant of the fact that there are going to be stronger players, and they need that outlet, but we have that, and this comes up all the time, even in our own staff room. We put forward our best children.
Sounds like it comes up in your staff room already.
But we put forward our best children for quiz, say for example, we have quiz teams, and we put forward probably the children that are the best at quiz. We put forward our best singers when we're doing National Children's Choir. We put forward all of these things. So in sports, in our Common Municipal competitions, or in our leagues, our inter-school leagues, should we not put forward our best children, our strongest players? And I think as long as we remember that there's a time for that, but this is not it. This is something that all of the school can be involved in and enjoy, and children who may not have parents bring them to the local club or whatever, or may not be involved in a club at all, or may think, I don't really enjoy GAA, I prefer to do this or I prefer to do that. They may get a chance to actually pick up a few new skills and say, I might actually get involved, and that's what came back from our staff anyway, that was there for them.
Is this part, Martin, of the GAA taking a little bit of a step outside themselves and taking responsibility for, I suppose, or seeing the opportunity possibly for weakness is maybe a little bit of, I'm not sure if it's the right word, but definitely that we see that there's a need to develop some of these integral strengths in just basic things like movement, like that it's not in relation to hurling and football necessarily, that movement is just integral to us in every sport, in everything that we do, probably to theatre, music, whatever, with the fun and run, the catch and kick, you're talking about the skills, the fine motor skills, we're stepping outside a little bit and saying, okay, well, we can actually contribute to something beyond just what we need, which is for Ballyhale to be this strong and for St. Martin's to be this strong.
Well, I think the 5-star, it covers it all, you know, and it takes away this mystery that I suppose a lot of teachers would have, you know, saying I can't do this, or I can't coach it, or I can't teach it. And, you know, the mystery is a big thing, and I would find in my job travelling across the country promoting hurling, mystery is the problem. People sell themselves short, teachers sell themselves short. Whereas if you look at the 5-star, it just shows you that there are, I suppose, we'll say from a hurling perspective, there's kind of 3 different areas, and Mrs. Hennessy has alluded to it here nearly. You know, you'll have the children that just want to have the thrill of being able to catch a ball and strike a ball, or kick a ball and catch a ball. And that's it. They might go down on the beach and play. They might play in the garden with their parents or their brothers and sisters, and that's as much as they ever want. Then you'll have more children, and they're like a little game. Now, the game can be just, we'll say, the go games, where you put down the jerseys. It doesn't matter who wins, it doesn't matter who loses. You play there for 10 minutes at break time or half an hour, whatever you have, and back you go. And then you have the other group of children, and later on adults, that actually want to be as good as they possibly can be. And they want to strive, and they want to practice the skills and be better and better, and maybe sometime get onto their club team or their county team and maybe get to Croke Park. And I think the great thing about sport is it caters for all those people. And it's probably the same in all other aspects as well, whether it be drama or whether it be music. Someone wants to play a motor organ at home in the backyard. Somebody else wants to be in the school choir. Somebody else wants to go up and be on RTE. So I think the 5-star delivers that. And teachers really, they don't need any prior experience. All they have to be able to do is walk out in the yard and ask the children, what's on today? What are you playing? Drink a cup of coffee.
I found, Carmel, when I was teaching, that I'm not very musical, like at some stage, and probably artistic either in some respects, like that at some stage when I was 7 or 8, I drew a few pictures and they weren't up there on the wall with the really good ones, or that I sang. I remember singing in the choir one day, and it was kind of like, it was like the start of The Simpsons. It was like, you know, get out of here before you ruin the whole thing on us. And it definitely kind of left a bit of a mark, you know. And so I felt then when I became a teacher, I saw some of the teachers who they had that same residual fear around teaching hurling and football, or just even in sport in general. Was there any teachers like that maybe who shared a little bit of a fear in it in your school, and you could see them overcoming that little bit of a difficulty, or is it that everybody in Limerick has these capabilities?
No, it isn't. But I think the one thing about our teaching profession is that they're really professional. So if you're presented with a package which is 5-star, you go on to that learning.gaa.ie, all you have to do is click a few buttons. Now, the younger teachers are so proficient on IT, they would have a lesson plan done up. There's so many, like every sort of skill you could think of that you need, and every kind of a warm-up activity game, they're all there. So the teachers are used to planning. Maybe sometimes the fear around, like, is there wasn't a 5-star for art and music when you were going to school. So if there was, I'm hoping that you wouldn't have had that fear, because you'd be quite happy that your drawing represented the best that you could do. And your music, that was good for you. So, like, what we're hoping to do with 5-star, and you're talking a lot about inclusion, you're talking about people feeling that they belong, getting that sense of, I developed from when I'm small, right? I'm only 5 and I can strike a ball, right? I can catch a ball. That's brilliant. That's absolutely super. But if I'm 5 and I can't do that, I'm not meant to feel bad about it. And I'll get it a bit along the way. I was at a match one evening, and I bet lots of matches, but I was a parent watching the game, and I was chatting away to a lady beside me who had no interest whatsoever in the game. She just wondered what time it would be finished at, because she'd a load of washing to put out. Next thing, the ball came flying over. She was chat. I put up my hand and I caught it, right, at her face level, and she goes, oh, now I know why you need to catch a ball. So that's my point, really, I suppose. those skills, they transcend across all you do in life, you know? So they are life skills. And I hope our 5-star centre kids won't feel that about the GAA.
Yeah, one thing you touched on, Martin, I thought was interesting, and Carmel, I witnessed it in your school and a little bit in your school too, Orla, is that the 5-star centre, that the yard games, strike it, and the catch and kick, the yard games, you actually had the children out from the older classes coaching the younger classes. I just thought that was absolutely wonderful. I mean, we mentioned about science earlier, and the kind of sciencey technical term for the 5-star centre is that it should generate self-sufficiency and sustainability in a Gaelic games, stroke sport, stroke physical activity context within the wider school community. But the practical kind of expression of that, or the evidence of that for me at a very ordinary but very, very important level was seeing those kids, you know, teaching the younger kids. Maybe you could elaborate a tiny bit on that.
Well, that came about because a lot of the time children in the yard, now we had about 60 juniors and seniors all running around, and like there was no structure to anything. Some children would say, oh, I don't know how to play, I don't know what to play, nobody would play with me. So we had some of the older kids then who like had learnt all these skills and were only mad to lead something. So they would develop little play groups a couple of days a week, and they would teach the skills that they had been taught. And actually last Sunday here in Croke Park, our locals kids, I came in to sit down in my seat and I got these, how are you Mrs. Power, from my little kids from school. And the best thing that I saw that day was 2 of the mentors with them. They were past pupils. So they developed their leadership capacity, they developed leadership skills, and they went on to be mentors. And is that your sustainability then?
Yeah,
You know?
no, it is. I mean, it's Dermot, you mentioned about stepping outside yourself as an association a little bit, and you know, if we constantly focus on the winning team and the players that are mechanisms for winning, well then, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But the GAA, as we say in our values, is about community. It's about everybody feeling part of something bigger
And not just
than
the
themselves.
GAA community. Like
It's feeling part of something bigger than you as an individual, your school, your club, your parish, your community, your country. It's even the World Games ran a few weeks ago. Like you're really part of, or plugged into something that's very kind of special, very spiritual, something that's bigger than yourself. So whatever the output for the individual who has had hopefully a positive introduction to Gaelic games, like that's the bottom line with the 5-star centre. We hope that every single boy and girl, by the time they leave primary school in the 32 counties, and even in the schools doing it overseas, that every single one of them would have had some kind of a positive introduction. They feels in some way positive about some element of the 5-star centre or Gaelic games or the wider kind of community that's involved in it. And whatever their involvement will be, I mean, we often see overseas, and I was in college over in Scotland, and lots of guys there in their early mid-20s started playing football again, and a lot of them hadn't played, and girls, they hadn't played since they were in primary school. So just to have those kind of their life skills we're building. They're not just Gaelic game skills. They're not just the ability to play hurling, to play football, to strike a ball. All that stuff is important for your physical development, but this is way more than about your physical development. It's about your psychological development, your social development, and for me, at your deepest level, it's really about your spiritual development.
It's interesting how when you saw that, Pat, like you've been at the coalface of the getting this down like in a document to get it written, and you know the ins and outs of that, and that's a whole body of work, and it's very, very in depth. But yet, when you came to see it in the school and you see this development of autonomy, of the ability to create the conditions for self-expression from an older student to a younger student, there's almost a surprise in that, and like this is where I'm interested in. It's like I saw the stuff from Pat, from yourself and from Pat Daly early on, and I was thinking, okay, I see the roadmap, but how does it get diluted on the way out? How does it fit? How will it be diluted, or does it filter out and it's a great idea, but it's not going to actually be in person? But I think this seems to be the experience, is you're seeing that the youngsters are taking this. They're taking this on, and I'm assuming as well, Mark, from Kilkenny perspective, when you were involved with the team, that idea of autonomy of player, the decision making in the moment. I know it's at the elite level, but this is what we want our young people to be able to do: to think for themselves, to solve problems for themselves, to feel that the power that goes with autonomy in the very positive sense of power, the strength that it kind of brings you.
Yeah, well, I would have had a similar experience to Carmel's in school. That you know, when we'd run little leagues and we'd always get a few of the 5th and 6th class boys and girls to look after the teams, the little ones, and that really cut ice with them. I mean, the small children look up to the 5th and 6th as, as being absolute heroes. It's like your county player coming down to the lads in the club. And you know, it's just funny because even when IT came into the schools back around 2000, a lot of teachers were uncomfortable with it. But the clever ones got the children to study up some program and showed you don't have to have the skills yourself. And I see the same in the Gaelic games. You know, you need never have picked up a ball and kicked it or hit a hurling ball to pass it on. All you have to do is facilitate the children. And there are always children there that are more than willing to help everybody else. And we would have even found that when I discovered learning.GAA.ie, to have a little coaching day, you let the older children off onto their computers, study learning.GAA, and off to go and set up little stations, and they in turn coach the children. So again, it's back to the whole family situation.
Is there a kind of humility in that for us? Like I felt at times as a teacher, I got a little bit isolated in my room, you know, like the gates kind of began to be locked there for you know, parents couldn't come in, and teachers ourselves, like we did our staff room time, but then you were kind of back in the classroom, and I felt a little bit of a little bit of kind of isolation in that, whereas there's a humility that comes with the combined efforts of your principal, of the other teachers, of parents being involved, and of the kids themselves, where it's just like, this is, we're all in this, and I can value, even as a teacher, I can value that everybody here in the room, there's 30 other people, and there's a hive mind at play, and if I can steer them as a teacher towards their strengths and towards, you know, to develop their weaknesses or whatever it is, that it gives a more of kind of it creates a more vibrant setting. Like, has that been the experience in the schools of the 5 Star Centre? Yeah,
definitely. Like, I suppose the humility is kind of, there's a lot of teacher collaboration now, so you're not as isolated. And within school, you've got team teaching going on, you've got station teaching going on, and a lot of the times the children can lead those activities. And anybody who's honest will say that the latest smartphone will be out and I'll be still trying to work out how to turn it on, when the 5th and 6th class in front of me will have gone down to the nitty-gritties and the settings. You know, so like there's huge learning there for us as well. But like you say, maybe it's difficult at times to, you know, accept that I don't know everything, and to be the one to say, how would you do that? And you'll often put solutions to children and you let them tease them out, and they'll nearly always come up with a better solution than you went in with yourself in your head. So this collaboration is huge, and that's your critical thinking skills that you're talking about, your leadership skills, you know, that there. So it definitely helps there.
Yeah, like the 5 Star Centre isn't absolutionist in its practical expression. We're not going to say that we're going to change the face of Irish society for the better, but we, as an association, and by the way, the GAA isn't Croke Park. This is the GAA. It's people, ordinary people on the ground, volunteering their time. Teachers, in particular, primary teachers, are the backbone really of the association. And we, through the 5 Star Centre initiative, individually in the schools and collectively as a nation, and increasingly overseas, we are trying to make a serious and definite contribution to the health and well-being of Ireland's children. Now, that's a pretty big statement to make, but at the same time, Dermot, it's a contribution. There's a lot more that needs to happen to change the ills of society, but the GAA 5 Star Centre is proving, with 51,000 children participating in it last year, there was 1.5 million hours of physical activity. That is multiplied by the 51,000 children across 250 schools. We've nearly 700 schools signed up this year. This thing is exploding with popularity. We've Fun and Run, which is a brand new game, a kind of like hurling and football rounders. It's non-contact, the fielding team, but all children are active all the time, and it gives the child especially the child that may never, for whatever reason, they may have been born in a different country, or they may have had certain challenges or disabilities that may have prohibited access to these kind of things in the past. But the Fun and Run, for example, allows you to pick up a hurley and to put the ball on the tee and to strike it. You can hit it with your hand, you can kick it, kick the football off the tee as well if you want, but just to get that thrill of the vibration up the hurley, you know, you're starting to feel alive. You're collaborating with your teammates. You're feeling part of, you know, something bigger than yourself. So basically, in a sense, the GAA 5-Star Centre, what it's trying to do, and on a collective basis, is contribute, make a serious, practical, no-nonsense contribution to the health and well-being of Ireland's children.
Well, and again, it's like that's we're speaking about it here, and it's kind of intellectualized. But I was up in Mayo, lucky enough to go up with yourself, Pat, to Mayo, and again I was in that kind of the feeling of, okay, let's see it now. Let give me a look, Pat, at what you've created, and how's it been rolled out? How does it look on the ground? And from the second I went in the gates of Gael School in Cruiche, now the fact that it's Gael School, I found myself in my element definitely as well. But the feeling in the school of that was probably the big word, community and collaboration. Like there was something happening and the kids all knew it, and the teachers all knew it, and they were all very, very grateful for it. They received us with such gratitude, such an open welcome. There was past pupils sitting in the staff room chatting to teachers about the different programs that were running. Like there was just a really beautiful openness. We recorded a video on the day as well, and I'd love to show the lads here, but to show the teachers that are watching as well, the recording that we have from the video in Gael School in Cruiche from a few weeks ago.
Gael School in Cruiche has always invested heavily in the GAA. In the coming months, we felt this is something that we should look into, and Muncher Colum and Muncher Caroline took it on board to basically direct the rest of us into their vision for what we can achieve and the vision that the 5-star school could achieve.
It wasn't just the Gaelic sports that were developing, it was their concentration spans, it was their interaction with each other. It benefited them as people, not just as sports kids.
It definitely did. Drove, you could see like it changed the atmosphere to a certain degree because they were working together a lot more in terms of out. It wasn't just working together on projects in the classroom. They were out together working as a team on the various skills challenge, and that, I think that drove, and it also kind of, you know, any kind of squabble that might appear in class was quickly put aside because they were working together on a team basis outside. So it definitely helped with, and again, that idea of being active and participating together. And when it doesn't work out for you, to be able to deal with having the resilience to say, look, I didn't have my best game today, or I didn't get the shot that I wanted, or whatever the case may be. The ability to deal with that definitely, I think, proved.
Once teachers saw that, everyone was on board.
Yeah.
Like, I think if the 5-star GAA here, it didn't exist. Like, there's people that would never touch the hurl in their life, you know, and they wouldn't have got into sport. But because this is in the school, you know, it's really come on, and it's great. Yeah, it's lovely to see.
We have movement breaks regularly throughout the day. Anyways, we run 1 kilometre throughout the day. Their core strength is improving. They're able to skip. Their coordination is a lot better, and they're more confident in themselves. It's all good. Yeah, 5 stars.
Brilliant. 5 stars. Brilliant. It's about every single child in the whole school getting an opportunity to play, to feel a bit of ashwood that grows up out of the ground in their hand, the thrill of striking a ball, the vibration up the hurley, and you're feeling part of something bigger than yourself. You're feeling part of something that's even bigger than your school. It's about your community. It's about connecting people. The essential message, Diarmuid, is that every single child in Ireland eventually should have a positive introduction to Gaelic games. This will be underpinned by an opportunity to play Gaelic games and to be more physically active through an hour of activity a week across the school year.
But the flag for the 5-star is saying we value. It's flying over our school. It means that we value all that is good with the GAA in inspiring young children to take up with the hurl, to play their Gaelic, to put in their mouthguard, to have their gear ready with their books every morning.
So the feeling there, the feeling for me there, the gratitude that I had actually in the end for having been there, to get to witness it, to compare it to my own experiences and what I thought the primary school experience was like, both as a pupil and as a teacher as well, and to see the changes that have the strides that we're making in education. In terms of the GAA 5-Star Centre, how much is the roadmap of it meeting the challenges that teachers and principals see for young people?
I think it certainly is, in that, you know, I know we've referenced it a few times, but it's just, I mean, really what it boils down to is 10-15 minutes a day of outside with your class. You know, when you bring it down to that in simple terms, that's what it is. You know, have a ball, you know, go get a ball, and these are our skills and we're going to play these for 10-15 minutes. It's, you know, it's very effective and very simple, and, you know, when it boils down to it, you can take all the strands, you can take out the curriculum, but that's what it is, and children just love to play, you know, when it comes to it. Children just want to get outside and play, and that's, you know, that's the way children, you know, any child, when is break time, or when are we going outside, and when, you know, when is it PE, and when is it, you know, that's you know, regardless of whether they're strong or not, they just love the crack of going outside and, you know, going to the school hall if the weather isn't good or whatever, but they just love it. And you know, there is huge support there. You know, your local GAA can provide great support, and in our case did, and has offered great coaching, but it is teacher led, you know, so when, you know, you're given the resource, you're given the equipment, and then it's take it on yourself, and you know, teachers have done that, so yeah, it's been super.
Have the roles, Martin, changed a little bit in terms of the organisation's communications with schools, that our interactions, maybe one time was to go in and coach, whereas now, in particularly with the 5-Star Centre, it's like it's
self-sufficiency, really.
It's self-sufficiency. Okay.
Yeah, it's self-sufficiency, and it's empowering. And again, as something Carmel touched on there, you know, I think the greatest sign of a leader is to be able to empower others. And you know, even we're here in Croke Park, down in the dressing rooms there on All-Ireland Day, you could have a coach or a manager comes in and you're down 10 points, and if he or she thinks I have the answers, they may not, but if they turn to the players and say, lads, have any of you got the answers? And that's empowering. You know, you put players out in the field and you say, lads, you guys, you take over now. But I think I think the greatest thing the 5-Star initiative does is that it gives children, I suppose, an opportunity to get into the Gaelic Games family. And I always had, I suppose, as a teacher, I had a feeling that there's almost an onus on us. We almost have a duty to deliver certain things to our children. And of course, values, you know, we got to give them values. But I think, you know, we got to give them the history of our country, and in particular our local history. We got to give them the geography. But I think we really have to give them our culture, and we have to pass on the language. And a major part of our culture is Gaelic Games. And I've always felt if we don't pass on that love of Gaelic Games, that opportunity to play, we're not really doing our job. And the 5-Star gives that. You know, to be part of the Gaelic Games family it's like having, I suppose, a ticket or a passport to the world. And I always knew that, I always believed it, but it really came home to me a few weeks ago, down, as you mentioned, Pat, down at the World Games. And I stood back and I watched, and I said, look, this is what we've been talking about. I met past pupils that are now abroad for years, and they've told me what being part of Gaelic Games as a player, as a mentor, as a supporter, what it means. Friends, job opportunities, socially. I met children of past pupils who are now, whatever, Native Americans, Native Middle East, and they have come into this great family of Gaelic Games. And again, what it means to them, friends that they would never have had, communications they never had. And that all starts back in the little primary school, whether it's up in Ballycastle in Antrim or down in South Kerry or wherever. And I think, Pat, your initiative there now, what you're driving on with this 5-Star, it's just, we've been waiting for it for years, because it's in a package.
You mentioned that, Martin, about the international element, and to my surprise, really, 3 schools in New York have taken this on board last year and made a real success of it. There's 6 schools in Canada doing it. We have schools in Australia this year. We actually have schools in Cyprus. There's a UN buffer zone in Cyprus, there's a pitch inside the UN buffer zone, and there's going to be 5-star centre delivered on that pitch this year. So this is a ready-made package. If any Irish person, whether they're Gaelic Games orientated or not, and I sincerely mean this isn't the hard sell line, the you know, the tagline, but if you're an Irish person or not an Irish person, and you're a teacher coming out of a college or an institute of education, and you don't really have much, you may feel competence or confidence around your engagement in sport in whatever capacity, be it a playing, teaching, coaching capacity. This initiative has proven, I think Orla has alluded to it, that it can be, it's so easy to organise that the children can actually lead it. You just act as the facilitator, and so the schools internationally are picking up on this. It's 99% practical activity. There's a tiny bit of administration. We actually calculated it. There's a few steps like registration and a little end of year report like the video mentioned there, and it's 47 minutes all in. You know, we looked at some other initiatives, and the administrative workload was you know, much higher. You know, so the one thing I hear all the time from principals in particular, I go to the IPPN conference every year, I meet hundreds of principals. You know, they ask me two things: how can we become a GAA 5-star centre? And the second thing is, as part of that, is how much administration is involved. And there's absolutely an absolute minimum. The focus, 99% of the energy that goes into this is literally, as Orla said, 10 or 15 minutes a day to take the children out onto the yard, into the hall, and just let them play. Let them play, and it doesn't have to be just your traditional hurling or football. There's fun and run, there's have a ball movement skills, there's different yard games there, and it's just the feedback we're getting internationally and nationally is colossal, and we'll have 3 times the amount of schools, as I mentioned, signed up. With 250 last year, we're going to be looking at over 700 this year. I mean, that speaks volumes in itself.
I think it's important, Pat, what you mentioned there about the admin, and because we've all been in staff meetings and you've a list, and you know, you're saying, will anyone take this on? And I don't think there's too much in this now, and you know, they've heard that a lot now, the staff at this stage. There's not much in this now. Would anyone be willing to take this on? And it's goodwill of teachers, and you're depending on that a huge amount. So that you can actually truthfully say, listen, if someone wants to take this on for the year, you know, as a coordinator, not that there's much coordination on it, but just to be in charge of where your fun and run goes when you're finished, or where the resources are going to end up, the kind of the practical running of it. If someone is going to take this on, that it's not going to be, you know, a huge mammoth task, you know, that it's just going to be a case of, yeah, I'll do that this year, someone else can do it next year, but it's very easy to run, you know. Yeah.
But we're also fitting it into that curriculum overload that's there, that department paperwork that's there. And as Pat said, it didn't take me, I'd say, 10, 15 minutes at the start. And at the end, I had a tiny bit of editing. It was very little editing to do. And then press send. And
we can't forget our bread and butter here, the core units of the association of the GAA, the club, you know, and there's been different models, and some of them have worked very well, others maybe not so well, but there's been different models of what's known in the vernacular as the club school link, you know, and the 5-star centre, although it's teacher driven, it has to be in the school. If it's a school led initiative, it has to be principal, board of management, principal and teacher driven. That isn't open for question. But as part of the curriculum, as part of the wider school ethos, the local club and the local knowledge and the local energy and goodwill that exists thankfully in nearly every community, every parish throughout Ireland, that has a massive role to play here, and that's what I was very impressed with in particular in your school, Orla, the way you embraced in a kind of a football stronghold the camogie club, the hurling club, and you kind of had everybody, you know, not just the children and the teachers, but even people from the local community felt part of something really more positive and bigger than themselves. So in many ways, Martin, in many ways, we're not trying to replace the club school link. We're trying to subsume it, embrace it into this wider movement known as the 5-star centre.
And that was huge for us on the day, on the actual presentation of the flag on that day when you were in the school, Pat. We had, you know, members of Carlowtown Hurling Club, members of Tinryland Football Club. We had, you know, the juvenile chairperson and parents who were involved in the club. And it was, since then, the huge amount of people who have offered more support, and I can get Garda Vet for the school if you need any, you know, which is super. That just tell me the times and I can be in, and you know, it's you know, we'll take all of the support. Like, it's brilliant to have that. So it's been for the community, for the parish of Tinryland in general. There's been a huge amount of goodwill. You know, they see the flag flying, and you know, some older members of the parish who mightn't have children or grandchildren in the school anymore, you know, have become involved in it again, have asked about it, and have, you know, which has been great. You know,
I think we could probably go on for quite a while on this one, and I'm keen to wrap things up, because I know maybe teachers are probably keen to get home after listening to us and to get online. learning.gaa.ie/5-star is where you want to go for further information. Buíochas ó Cree le Pat, he's after hosting us here, and it's been a pleasure to be here back in Croke Park. Anytime I turn the corner over on Jones Road and I see the big stadium, something lights up inside of me still. So it's great to be here. To Orla, thanks very much for sharing all your wisdom from Tinryland, and to Martin yourself and the great work that you're continuing to do. Fair play, and to Carmel as well for bringing the Limerick spirit up here. It's been a pleasure to explore. So thanks very much to everybody listening in from outside as well. I hope it's been engaging, worthwhile, useful, inspirational, and whatever else it's done for you. But definitely get in contact. There is a willingness to support at every level of the great work that you're doing in your schools, and we're delighted to bring this to you in the hope that it supports you in some way. So thanks very much. Slán agus Banach Díobh.